Hello. Hi,
Hey,
Lidia.
hey,
Good to have
good
you
to
here
see
this
you
morning.
again.
Very good. Well, welcome everyone. We are live on LinkedIn Live with it's the Coach Me to Lead show with uh, with typically with Erno Hannock, who is on holiday, and so I'm Gwen Riedel, and I'm filling in for Erno for a couple of weeks. So this morning I'm very excited to have our guest Lidia Chmel with us, and she is also a member of the Coach.me team, and we are going to talk this morning about resilience. As we've been on our team, as we've been thinking about how to um, how we want to the kind of work we want to do in the world and how we want to show up is we've been noticing how resilience is really a major topic, and especially coming out of COVID, resilient. We've our attention has been drawn to this, and so um, and also just knowing that people are really overwhelmed with their work, overwhelmed with their lives, that we have so much change going on, that how can we help people um, cope with all these changes that are going on and with daily life as overwhelming as it is. And so today's episode is going to be exploring and diving into that topic. And Lydia has special expertise in this area. And so I'm really excited to talk with her. So, Lydia, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your background and in yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Gwen. Thank you for inviting. And this is my second time here, so I'm very excited to talk about resilience. It's a very near and dear topic of mine. Just a few words of introduction. I'm a coach, a certified habit coach, and Coachdotme. I'm also part of the team. I'm very honored to be on the team because I think the habits, what we do in the habit space is very much related. It's very important work for the resilience. So the topic that we're discussing,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, and we'll talk about it later, I'm sure. In general, my life has been it's been a journey, and honestly, I got interested. I'll tell a little story how I got interested in resilience, but with what I've been through with my family, I have 4 kids. We've changed countries 2 times in the last 6 years, and the COVID, and a lot of changes and adversities and turbulent times that we've been through. I think me being a coach for the last almost 7 years and being interested and very much involved in the topic of resilience helped me a lot. I've recently gone through the conversations with some network of mine, my friends, all colleagues, all classmates, and they always, like, at the end of my story, they always tell me, "Oh my God, Linda, you've been through so much. You must be such a resilient person." I say, "Yeah, but I've also been lucky because I've been I've been studying, I've been looking, and I've been teaching people, coaching people through how to become more resilient. So I'm probably was much more equipped than other people were with resilience." And just a small story how I got involved in the resilience or interested in the resilience topics. I was always very optimistic and happy person, and at some point of my coaching career I was researching now how people can become more happy, and then I got into kind of, well, happy is a very difficult word, difficult concept. Is more research is this topic of optimism, right? Optimism is well developed concept through the positive psychology work of
Mm-hmm.
the Dr. Seligman. And then through the optimism, I got to learn that actually optimism is a very big part or kind of contributor to being a resilient person. Resilient person have the optimism is kind of the core, the foundation. I'm like, oh, what is this resilience skill? thing is, and I got very much interested in that, and I got to learn it, I got to teach it, I got to coach people with it. And then when I was in my personal journey faced with some very challenging things with my kids, with our life, with our family, then I realized the power of being a resilient person. So
Mm.
that's kind of a very brief description I wanted to give the intro.
Well, that's fabulous. Wow. Yes, you have been through a lot, and that is a powerful story to see that you've been able to use that information in your own life to help you, and that you've had an experience with so many people helping them as well. Yeah, that's
Sure.
great. Well, it's reminding me as you're speaking, it's reminding me that last week I spoke with Tammy Oduba, and we brought up the topic of resilience, and she mentioned that, one definition of resilience is being able to bounce back after a disappointment or failure of some sort. And I thought, oh, that is what I used to think of as resilience. So I thought it might be helpful for us to just define resilience. And one of the things, one of the things that spurred this conversation was, Lydia, you posted on LinkedIn recently, I think just this week, that you read a report that said that leaders are not that resilience is not an important topic to leaders necessarily. And it makes me wonder if it's partly because resilience is, we don't understand what it is. It's a nice word, and yeah, it'd be nice if I were resilient. And I've been through hardship and I've bounced back, so I must be resilient. But really, what is it? What's the definition of resilience?
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing this up. And I get very emotional talking about this because I have my personal, like exactly like you said, I have my personal kind of experience being a resilient person, how much it helped me. But I want to start with the African saying that sounds like, you know how well the roof has been built only when the rains come.
Mm.
and that's and
Mm.
that says everything about resilience, right? So resilience is the skill that we need and that we use, we exercise when the adversity comes, right? And that's, I guess, that's the kind of the same sides of the both sides of the same coin, that on one hand it's a very strong and very powerful tool, but the thing is, we only can experience the power of it only once the kind of the tough times, the turbulent times, the adversity comes, right? And then when it comes, it's basically too late. At that point, it's too late to build this,
Mhm.
right? So that's might be one of the reasons the leaders don't see it, because they say, well, how do we know? How do you need to invest way before the rain starts. You need to build that roof. It's the same problem that people have with the any prevention sort of medicine, right? The vitamin versus the painkiller, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
It's much easier to sell the painkiller, right? Because you have the headache, the back pain, but it's so hard to sell the vitamin or the exercise, yoga, or whatnot, any sort of preventive measure, because we have limited resources, not because we are bad or anything like that. It's because we have limited resources and we are focused on solving the immediate problems. Now, with resilience, I think the biggest issue, just coming back to your point, why I think one of the reasons leadership don't see the point investing in building resilient leaders, resilient teams, resilient organizations, because they have more urgent and more kind of
Mhm. Mhm.
urgent problems. Now,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean they shouldn't. By all means, I advocate for them to pay attention and actually invest time and money and resources and energy on building resilience. So um, going back, what is resilience? I love the definition. Like the short one is not the ability to bounce back from the adversity, but actually to bounce forward. You know,
Mm.
resilience is this, you can say, the magic tool that and I'm going to quote here one of my favorite definition: resilience is the power to be energized and elevated by disruption. It is the internal fortitude to emerge stronger, even more effective from tough situations. You know, how wonderful is that, right? So, if people see that and see the value of that and have the ability to have longer term vision, this is another issue I see with the leadership. We've been talking about it for ages, that our company leadership is focused on the short term goals, quarterly profits, yearly profits. Now, if you look a little bit longer, then where you understand the turbulent times, the volatility, and the uncertainty that we live in, that's the long-term thinking could bring back the attention to resilience, where resilient, again, individuals, leaders, resilient teams, and resilient organizations that are able to thrive, to become stronger, and to emerge, like be effective from the adversity, then obviously that would be um, the reason for them to invest in building that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thinking, even as you're talking about this, I'm just thinking about friends who are working in the corporate world and have vacation time they haven't taken yet. And uh, so that's, that's one way to build resilience, is to have time off for recovery. And I think in the US, that I can't quote any specific statistics, but I think people tend to not even use all their vacation time because they just feel like they need to work, work, work. Yeah. So
Crazy.
I mean, it's one thing, and actually, having worked in human resources and been privy to the stats around people taking vacation time, um, tracking vacation time is a big deal, and you know, trying to figure out when to take your time off is a
Yeah.
challenge.
No, I totally understand. Of course, there is the ideal world that we all want
Mhm.
and envisage and everything, and then there is a real world, right? And I think, but then I think you ask yourself, what is, um, what is the task of a leader, like real leader?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think maybe to kind of to make the bridge, right? To close the gap between the ideal world,
Mm.
right, and the
Mm.
the life that we live. So I'm not saying that you're wrong. Obviously, you're stating the obvious, and I have these friends, and I've been in this situation when I was 10 years ago. I was in corporate. I was a finance director, and I remember those days. I remember, but at the same time, I'm challenging the leaders. I'm challenging the CEOs, because I think we are, like, mm, as a humanity, as a society, we are going towards some big icebergs, and we've hit one, right?
Mhm.
The pandemic, the COVID, and we were not ready at all. Not like zero, you know
Mhm.
we had to change tires as we go, right? We had to reimagine the work, the life, and everything. And it was just a so vivid illustration how we were not ready. So thinking about the other upcoming global challenges, potential, personal,
Mhm.
organizational and global challenges. Now the question is, what is the role of the leader? And I think this is one of them, to close this gap, to minimize the gap between this ideal world that we're never going to live in and then the reality, and then finding courage, resources,
Mhm.
and support within the organization to implement some of the things that would help the organization, the team, the individuals to become more resilient, to be ready to face those icebergs that are definitely coming at us, or we coming at them, however you
Mhm.
want to see it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's such a good point. I love your analogy of closing the gap between the current world and the ideal world, and that the leader's role is to look out for that. That's part of the strategic mindset. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So, what are some things that you found that are helpful to do that? To for both for leaders to help close the gap, but also for just ourselves about how we can prepare our own self for the future, and how can we build more resilience in ourselves.
Yeah, I'll start with the individual level, because the discussions we had with you and with the Erno is like, if we want to change, we always should start with ourselves, right? We should be the leaders in our own life, and then we can
Mhm.
lead others, right? So I would start with the personal resilience. And over the years, as much as I studied and tried it on myself and other coaching other people and training other people with resilience, what I found that I see resilience being three domains. And once you see it in three domains, it becomes easier to to see how it all comes together. So
Mhm.
from this hypothetical kind of ability to be a superhuman, right? Because it seems like that, right? Come on,
Mhm.
the resilient person can become stronger from the adversity. It seems like a superhuman from, if you look at this definition. Now, once we break it down into these three domains, I think it becomes more tangible, and you can see what you can do actually. And you can do a lot. Each of us can do a lot to build that. And as we discussed, this is something we should be building prior to the adversity, to the big thing, to the complex things happening to us. So one is physical, and I always start with that. That's our body, and that's very near and dear to our heart and Coachdotme, right? Because we are here helping people to build this daily habits that are very basic, but they are foundational to building resilience. So having enough sleep, uh, good nutrition, enough fresh air, doing the body movement, like this is the basics. The body part, in my view, is the one of the fundamental element of resilience. Now the next one is the emotional resilience. This is it's connected to the body through so it's nervous system regulation, but it's is the emotional part of things, the hormonal kind of regulation, how well we're able to process negative emotions, how well we are able to get into the fight and flight mode, and more importantly, to go back to this relaxed mode, to give our body and mind and the whole ourselves the rest, because that's important, right? And then the third element is the mental, or the way we think about things. Like this is the optimistic kind of
Mm.
viewpoint of the world. The hope is the big part of it. So how we view ourselves, our ability to cope with the adversity, and our ability to grow even in the turbulent and difficult times. So these three elements, when you look at this like that, right, it becomes more clear. what to do, because all of that, first of all, we are born with a certain level of resilience, like the same, like we are born with a certain level of optimism, but we can improve it. It's not
Mhm.
given. Yeah, you know,
Mhm.
we can definitely improve. We can work on our physical part, right? Make sure all our basic habits are there, enough sleep, enough nutrition, enough physical activity. It's all there. Is the basis, of everything. All the other, they're on top of this, on top of this level. It's sooner or later, if you don't pay enough attention to this level, sooner or later your nervous system and then your brain will just not be able to cope with so much
Mhm.
information, so much stress. They need this energy reserves that are coming from a body, and it's all interdependent, right? Emotional, right? And there are so many mindfulness practices. They help you to uh, uh, turn from the arousal mode to the relaxation mode,
Mhm.
right? you know Shavasana, yoga, breathing practices, like all these practices help you with the go kind of managing your nervous system and coming from the arousal to the stress to non-stress mode, and just processing negative emotion, being able to stay with them, and not numbing them with the various available options that we have. And then finally the mental models, and that's, it seems like the hardest work to do on ourselves, like the first two levels, although the second is probably good to enroll in some classes or get some teachers, but the last one is probably toughest to work on ourselves, because it's tough to notice the negative self-talk that we might be doing, like, oh my god, I made a mistake, I'm a failure, or oh my god, I'm so stupid, right? Now, the resilient person, noticing he or she made a mistake, would say, "Oh, I made a mistake. How do I make sure I don't make it in the future, right?" Or, "Oh, I'm gonna have some difficulty or difficult project next week. How can I prepare, the team to support me so that we manage that well?" So this is where optimism, the skill of optimism, comes in. And this is a skill, contrary to what people think. They're optimist and pessimist and they're born and they're set for life. It's a skill. Optimism, it's a skill. You can train yourself to look at the things in a different way. And I love Dr. Seligman work in this space, where he has models. He has a way where people can teach themselves to see both themselves, people around them, the situation, and the world, in much better way, in a lighter way, where there is hope. Hope that things can change for the better. And that's basically the kind of the core premise of the optimism and the resilience, is that whatever comes, whatever difficult situation comes, we're gonna thrive. Not just cope, not just
Mhm.
survive, but actually thrive, because it's a challenge, and challenge opens opportunities. Like it becomes a little bit of a cliche, but the Chinese sign for crisis is both the crisis and opportunity. Like
Mhm.
every crisis, in every adversity, there is opportunity. Now we just need to train ourselves to see the opportunity.
That's excellent. Wow, Lydia. That's that's a lot. And
Yeah.
it's Well, I have a couple of thoughts. One is that I'm doing my own personal work around changing some self talk. And I'm doing it through paying attention because I tend to be more of an intellectually focused person rather than emotionally focused, even though, on the Myers Briggs, I'm a feeling type. Um, I have trained myself in the business world to be really focused on logic and rationality. And so uh, my work right now is around tuning into my feelings. So going to tuning into the emotion, but I'm doing that through my self-talk. So it's kind of a combination of mental and emotional work at the same time. So um, because it's interesting if you really stop to hear what you're saying to yourself in when you're in a situation that you're uncomfortable with, then you know it you are so accustomed to that what you're telling yourself in your head that you don't even notice it. So it's really it you're right. I think it's really important to have help to go through these things because you can't always see it. um, and another Another thing is a couple of case studies, really. I have two coaching clients right now that are working on um, setting priorities for their day. And one woman is older and has young adult children. The other woman is younger and has a new child. And uh, I think it's so interesting to observe both of them trying to build their resilience in just what you're saying, that they are the older one is not as accustomed. I think younger people are becoming more aware of this. So the younger person is very aware of her daily emotional state, her physical energy, her mental energy. She's tuned into that and she has experienced burnout in the past. So she's learned some skills. So she's really being conscious of that as she's going along. The older woman has young adult children that are in and out of crisis mode, moving in, moving out, the normal thing that happens as children are getting launched. And she's trying to establish some of these habits. And what you're describing, all these, there are so many things we could be doing. We could be doing yoga, we could be doing mindfulness, meditation, we could be eating healthy, sleeping enough. And as we know from our habit coaching clients and from our momentum method in Coachdotme, that you have to start really small with one thing, that we can't change it all overnight, that it's just one small thing at a time. And it takes a long time to change a habit. I know from my own experience that we get really programmed into doing things the way we do them, and it's really hard.
Yeah, it's totally true. And well, I experienced myself last summer. We moved countries. We moved from the whole family, moved from Portugal to Israel. And the move was a little bit unexpected, a little bit kind of rushed, not planned, not prepared. And once we moved, it's like a new environment, new country, new everything. Most of my healthy habits just went out of the window, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the period where I had to focus really hard on kind of making sure the whole family is settled and the logistics are working. And I wasn't paying attention. And then only after, I don't know, a few months, I guess, I was able to like, okay, well, now in this new environment, how I can bring back some of those very
Mm-hmm.
important for me habits, my morning routine. Now I have a new evening routine and like some other basic foundational things that are important to me. And starting small, you cannot jump. Even though I had them all figured out, all established, kind of, I had to go back to kind of this starting small. Maybe my speed was better. Maybe I kind of went back, but yeah, it took time. Now the good thing, some of them already became automatic. That's the beauty of the habits, right?
Mhm.
So the beauty of the habits, although you start small and it takes a long time to establish them, then they become your second nature, and you can really say they became your second nature once they're irrelevant to the change of the context or whatever, right? That's the theory.
Mhm.
So some of them for me were easy to bring back. It just was like that instant, but some not. And yeah, and I had to work on them, but I guess uh, it's still easier, once
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
start this journey, to bring them back is easier, faster. You know the drill. It will take some time, but in the end, you know how important they are and how you feel. You remember, kind of on the visceral level. You remember how good it is when you do your morning routine, this, how your day is going to be completely different. Your approach, your energy, your mindset, your mental resilience is going to be completely different when you have your routine back. So I guess it gives more motivation, it gives more
Mhm.
energy to bring it back. But yeah, it's hard.
So you mentioned earlier, well, let's go back to leaders and how leaders can
Mm.
support employees, or even how employees can support each other. Like you said, we lead our own lives. So how can we be good role models for each other and influence each other?
Yeah. Guess it's tough question. Um, I think both the leaders and team members, like everyone, I think they should start with themselves. We discussed that. So because that has been my approach to
Mhm.
raising kids all along.
Mm.
I realized very early in my motherhood career that you can't tell your children to do things. You can only show them
Mm.
again and day in and day out. So my kids see me going out for a walk every day. Kids see me doing yoga or whatever breath practice I do, because I do it in the living room. They see me studying, like learning. I'm a lifetime learner, because that's kind of big value for me. So everything, and resilience is, you only show them through, like, the big part. I'm not saying you only, but the big part is you show by example.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that for your kids, and I guess you can transfer it to your colleagues, and you can transfer it to your to leaders.
Mhm.
For example, we were discussing in our little discussion about the healthy lunch thing, right? How some people are just used to having, I don't know, sandwich or pizza for lunch. I forgot the time when I had pizza or sandwich, honestly, right? It's just not in my DNA no
Mhm.
more. And it's not bad or good, it's just not mine. And I think if I would be working in the office or be a leader or a teammate, it doesn't matter. I would bring a salad and
Mhm.
fish or meat or whatever, the healthy option that I consider healthy for me,
Mhm.
right? And I
Mhm.
would just do it every day, right? And other people, they have a choice, but I think, or at least I hope, when they see me, and again, I do that because that's how I show my kids. And my kids sometimes eat burgers and fries, which I don't eat. I don't I don't disallow them. I don't ban it in my house, but I'm not eating it. And they see me eating good, what I consider good food, nutrition, dance, and everything. And I hope that it's something that eventually, get into their believing. So I think one way, both for your team and the leader can do, is just lead by example. That's very important. Like, okay, in the morning or before the meeting, we all get together in the meeting, we do the breathing exercise. That's what I would do if I would be now leading a team. I say, before the meeting, everyone close their eyes and just, release whatever was happening before, because I want everyone to bring the best energy, and that's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, but it changed the whole experience. And I know it wouldn't go well with some people, for sure, but then, do these people belong to my team? Are their values align with my values and values for the team I want to build? I don't know. Probably not. And I know it's tough, and I know with this mentality of the bottom line, the quarterly goals, it might not go so well. But then I would question if I belong to organization who don't take the long-term approach, who don't who don't take that into account. So lead by example. Just implement small things. Like, we agree with you, like, habits are built from small things done consistently. Yes, I will order good food for lunches. I will do the breathing or meditation exercise before the start of the meeting. I will ask how people are, not like really are, on how they feel, give honest feedback and things like that. So um, it will take time. Good things in nature take time to build. Think about a tree. You plant a seed and then you wait years, right, for it to build. Now, resilient teams, good things take time to be built, but it's just the consistent action toward one direction, and being strict, and sometimes exercising boundaries, and sometimes some people don't fit in, so they have to leave, right? And some people stay because they feel this is their place, and they will value these things, and much more than other sort of kind of compensation or whatnot. So yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying, Lydia, about leaders just being conscious of their own behaviors and what they're reinforcing. And that we were having a conversation yesterday about benefits that are available to employees, and that or ways to celebrate wins in an organization might be giving throwing a pizza party, actually, is one of or I know as a trainer, it's important to have food during if you're having a day-long training session, it's important for people to have food to refuel themselves. But if I only brought in apples and oranges, people would be really disappointed if there weren't donuts there. That we're so accustomed, and they're comfort foods. They're things that when we're under stress, we default to these habits that make us feel comfortable. And so it's as a leader in an organization, trying to either set an example or make decisions on behalf of employees, or offering them not bonuses, but incentives of some sort, doing something that feels fun versus something that feels good for you. That that's a hard line to cross, I think.
And it's a process. I understand. I understand what you're saying. It's so much easier to bring chips and beer or pizza and Coke. You know, it's just easy, and everyone is going to be happy, right? But I guess as a leader, you have to ask yourself a question: Are you going to go for easy, or are you going to go for um, the vision and what
Mhm.
you want this to become? So um, it's a process. You can't do it overnight. Like yesterday was pizza and Coke party, and today is apples and oranges party. That would be like turn off, right?
Mhm.
So there need to be a bridge. There need to be some sort of intention put into this, right? Uh, but it's um, like everyone who is like only a little bit aware of what's going on when we consume high sugar or high carbohydrate food like pizza and pasta, or high sugar drinks or food. Everyone knows what happens to the body the next 2 hours, right? We have a crush, the
Mhm.
energy crush. So it's like even if a leader is like totally not interested in the health of the employees, but if he or she interested in their productivity, now
Mhm.
he or she wouldn't do that, right? Because so it's like so obvious these days. Like we live in the abundance of information where we have access now, and I think everyone to some extent realize that now. it, Again, we have this gap, and it's huge. The gap between knowing what's right for us and doing what's right for us, right? Is a huge gap. Is a huge gap. And the leader need to get creative on how to close this gap. And again, it's not the one day kind of, okay, from today it's going to be different. No, that's not going to work like that, right? He or she need to get creative, need to get and I was reading an article yesterday on the change, how to overcome resistance to change, how to overcome. And there were various suggestions. One of the suggestion is to get people together and ask them to get your team together, like not do what you think is good for
Mhm.
them, but get them together and say, look, guys, these are the facts, this is what I want, like where we stand, what are your suggestions, what could we
Mhm.
do, so I think involvement into the change,
Mhm.
being part, belonging to that change process is one of the way to overcome the resistance. Now it's hard, like no one's saying it's an easy task, but I think at one point it will become the factor of survival for teams, for companies, um, in the world where we live in.
Mhm. Wow. Strong words, Lydia. I think that's a great place for us to end our conversation, to bring our conversations to a close anyway,
Sure.
and not to completely end it. But I think I think what you're saying is so important that you're right. It just makes so much sense, and I really appreciate your discussion this morning about really why this is so important, and acknowledging the difficulty that we have in seeing it, um, and what we can do starting with ourselves to help build healthier organizations, um, that are more resilient and sustainable over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really appreciate that. I do want to share uh, contact information for Lydia. This if you use the scan code here, it will take you right to Lydia's Coach.me profile, and you can see what kind
Thank
of
you, Gwen.
yeah, if you are interested in checking out how she can help you. And I just want to really thank you, Lydia, for calling our attention to that an optimistic outlook on life, a growth mindset is important to building resilience. And I love the African proverb that we need to have the house built well before the rains come, that it's about preparing ourselves. We can't do it during the crisis. It has to happen before. And you've given us some very practical tips about how we can prepare ourselves and keep ourselves resilient over time. So thanks very much.
Yeah. And I love, that's one of the reasons I joined Coachdotme, the platform, the certification, and the team eventually, because I think that's the way. That's how, through the small changes in the habits, in the domains that we discuss, both physical, emotional, and mental, just changing it every day. The small change, that's how we build it. That's why I'm part of the whole movement that we're doing. But that's the only way, honestly. So I'm very happy to be part of the team. So thank you for this discussion. It's a very dear, as you can imagine, topic of mine. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thanks, Lydia.